Rumors circulated about President Trump's death. They were completely false. Still, partisan media used them as a launch pad to push their own narratives.
We may never know why Donald Trump suddenly spent a week hiding entirely from the American public. And that absence, and you may have seen this over the weekend if you looked at any social media platform, prompted quite a wave of online speculation about the president's health and well-being.
Where was all of the sudden panic during the last 4 years when Joe Biden was president, missing in action almost always?
The broader question we have here is how the media should cover a president's health. Because when partisan politics drive the narrative, objective journalism gets pushed aside. Welcome back to Bias Breakdown. Right-leaning media are taking this as an opportunity to criticize those on the left as hypocritical for not reporting on Biden's health.
If you want to go ahead and turn off about 80% of your remaining audience writ large, meaning Democrats, dive in hard on Trump health and ignore Biden's and see how that goes.
Yes, just showing the hypocrisy.
Donald Trump takes 3 days off Labor Day weekend and plays golf, which we saw him do, and suddenly, according to the media, Donald Trump's dead, which is very strange after 4 years of the legacy media not saying a word about Joe Biden's health. Joe Biden, who went months at a time without taking questions from the media.
And it's not like Trump wasn't seen. He was seen going to golf every day. Biden went days without being seen. They never asked if he was alive.
Meanwhile, left-leaning media highlighted health concerns that helped fuel the conspiracies.
Even Trump's allies have been speculating about his poor health. But while the online speculation over the long weekend turned out to be just that, the growing curiosity about Trump's well-being might be at least a bit understandable, considering that this White House has not given us any reason to trust what it says on just about anything, especially when it comes to the health of a man who is the oldest to ever take the oath of office.
All weekend long, where's Donald Trump? How come we're not seeing him? Bottom line is he's clearly got some health issues. We know this administration is not forthcoming pretty much about anything.
It's really disconcerting. The president has been very vocal with press all the time. I think in August, he spent 26 days doing public events or talking to press. So to go down for 6 days and just have a slew of true social posts that are very chaotic and people can't follow all of them is very concerning. And I think that it raises questions. Be taking a few days down in August, which is normal for presidents to do, or there could be actually something wrong. The problem is we don't know and they're not being transparent about it.
So that's the media noise around the story. Right-leaning outlets mostly skip over Trump's recent health concerns or bury it as an afterthought while shifting the focus to liberal hypocrisy. That's considered by news bias monitors as bias by omission and framing, pushing a partisan takeaway instead of laying out all the facts for audiences to decide. But the left had its own bias here too, using the moment to fuel speculation about the president's health. Again, the focus of the story shifting depending on the voices you heard. Here's what some popular podcasters on the left were saying.
But down to the heart of the issue, do they know something we don't know?
I'm still using my medical brain, and it's telling me that in this almost 80-year-old man, there's something else going on.
And so the question arises, is he having mini strokes? You got a lot of theories out there right now about his health.
Heart failure, kidney disease, liver issues, dementia. We need to know the truth.
In other words, that maybe there is an actual health crisis of some kind, or there was some kind of incident over the past few days.
And I can't help but think that there's something really insidious going on.
This idea that Trump is sick isn't debatable. It's obvious.
When you hear things like this could mean or it might mean, that's subjective language and not objective reporting. That's considered something called speculation, and it slides into sensationalism, another form of media bias, as it steers audiences toward believing there's some bigger cover-up around the president's health without any hard evidence. In the end, both sides are doing the same thing, straying from objective journalism, one by deflecting, the other by speculating. This is a sensitive topic, and newsrooms across the country are having internal editorial discussions on how to handle it. We're having those discussions here too. And we did report on what we know. Trump has bruising on his hands. That's a fact. He has used some sort of concealer to try and cover those bruises. That's also a fact. The White House says the bruising is because of handshaking and the use of aspirin, which has a side effect of bruising. That's an official statement. CNN's chief medical correspondent even said what we're seeing and what we're being told tracks.
My point being is that it tracks. We see this, what you're seeing on the screen there. They call it chronic venous insufficiency. That tracks. That makes sense. What we've been told by his doctors seem to make sense. They say that the bruising on the back of the hand as a result of aspirin use, lots of trauma to the hand from handshaking, they say.
Taking a look at what are known as the Big Three broadcast networks, we found coverage of Trump's death hoax and health concerns from ABC and NBC. But scouring CBS's website, YouTube page, and search engines, we couldn't find any coverage from CBS over the renewed attention to Trump's health and hand bruises. An editorial decision not to talk about it at all. But ABC News disagreed and criticized the media industry at large over any silence to the story. ABC wrote, news outlets face serious questions about how to handle the story, much like they did with Biden. The physical signs that have been pointed out online should trigger serious probes into the president's health. Some critics, like historian Garrett Graff, said it was puzzling that many in the media hadn't treated it like a news story. Graff wrote, you'd think reporters would be falling all over themselves to dig deeper right now. Clearly, there's enough smoke to warrant at least a major story in a major outlet investigating whether there is fire. Every newsroom and every journalist will hold themselves to different ethical standards, and each can justify their own reasoning. CBS could be justified because the death rumors were just that, online rumors. And the health concerns raised aren't new from what we learned over the summer, just that the bruises are still present. ABC News and others could justify their coverage by arguing that any concern about a president's health is information the public deserves to know and the press should stay on top of. But that is also an interesting thought. Transparency about a president's health. Is that something we're owed? It's a question worth pausing on, because that is a question that could be debated. We're talking about the leader of the free world. The U.S. government has before felt justified in concealing a president's health to project strength to the outside world. If history tells us anything, it's that presidents have a track record of hiding health issues. Woodrow Wilson suffered a stroke in 1919, and his wife reportedly took over many of his presidential duties at the time. Franklin D. Roosevelt struggled with polio and later heart disease, but he was rarely shown to the public in his wheelchair. John F. Kennedy had Addison's disease, but kept the diagnosis a secret to uphold a young and vigorous image. Impacts from Dwight Eisenhower's heart attack and stroke were largely seen as being downplayed. There's been much debate over whether Ronald Reagan's Alzheimer's battle began while he was in the White House or if it was after he left that signs started to show. Similarly, with Biden's recent stage 4 prostate cancer diagnosis, there was speculation the diagnosis was hidden while he was president, although Biden's medical team and Biden himself denied those claims. When it comes to President Trump's health, the patterns in coverage are clear. Right-leaning media largely deflect any conversation, shifting the focus away from Trump's health and onto liberal hypocrisy over Biden's health. Left-leaning media swing the other way, often speculating about serious health problems without solid evidence. Either way, the framing pushes audiences toward a narrative, leaving little room for objectivity or for viewers to draw their own conclusions from the facts. In the end, both sides downplay or speculate about a president's health when it's politically convenient for them. And that's your bias breakdown. Thanks for watching this week's episode. Remember, if you miss one of our stories one week, it's easy to catch up. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, along with other podcast platforms. Just search Bias Breakdown and we should pop up. You can also join in on the conversation if you have thoughts about this week's episode by finding us over on YouTube. Thank you to Ian Kennedy and Ali Caldwell for the video edits and graphics help for this week. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.